Dr. Allana DeGrassa here, president of Turning on the Lights Global Institute, and I want to thank you for tuning in to this workshop and webinar, the Incubation Accelerator Masterclass. Now, I want you to make sure that you have my undivided attention. Make sure you're in an environment where you can focus, grab your notebooks and your pens, and let's get ready to deep dive. Now, when I think about the word incubation, I'm easily able to think about Albert Einstein because he could be known for sitting for 8 hours at a time. And I remember in my own personal life when I needed to have a wake-up call, and it was in a moment where Hubster and I were in the midst of a transition, and I had to figure out what my new next was going to be. I knew that I loved teaching as an educator, but in this new season, I wanted to step out into entrepreneurship. Not only that, but I wanted to feel vibrant. I wanted to see things in color. I want you to know that 2024 can be an amazing year for you if you really decide to show up completely differently. And I have a question. What will life be like if you decided to take anticipated, intentional action on goals you've been holding back on for many, many years? Now, I can tell you something. I know what it's like to look out the window and wonder if there is more. I know what it's like to already be doing what people consider to be quote unquote amazing things and still look out the window and wonder, is there more? Because you're probably like me if you're watching this video. A lot of leaders and change agents and executives and entrepreneurs usually love a good challenge. We love ideation. We love striving. We love a good challenge. We love climbing up that mountain of the unknown, don't we? I mean, of course, we probably had some sweat and tears along the way, but what makes us unique as leaders and entrepreneurs, former educators and executives and coaches and trainers is that we show up because we're passionate about helping others. And I don't care if you're a coach, a financial guru, a strategist, someone who helps people with their finances, or a former educator like me looking to start your own business online. I want you to know that before you can think about having that wonderful success, you have to take time to have what I call incubation. I know a lot of times with social media and everything going on, everything just looks like it can just happen in a flash. You think of an idea and you execute and you go. Yes, that can happen, but over time, people who have been able to sustain themselves as entrepreneurs beyond the 5-year mark did it because they had a great plan in place. And more importantly, I think that entrepreneurship, leadership, or stepping onto a new goal is just like when you look out at a construction site and you see a demolition and you realize, oh my goodness, what I'm looking at looks awful. You know, the construction crew had to break down everything. It looks messy. There's rubble everywhere. And it just doesn't seem like this new building can ever take place. But then with time, over a course of time, we start seeing actual implementation of architectural renderings that were already designed, pre-designed, measured. And in the same way, when we think about reaching goals, there really is a blueprint to reaching new goals. And sometimes if we haven't taken time to have incubation, we might find ourselves starting and stopping or getting to a place and realizing it wasn't really what we thought we had in mind in the first place. So today, I want to invite you into this Incubation Accelerator Masterclass because I want you to have an amazing year. I want you to recognize that your yes, showing up for yourself, is going to be the number one thing that transforms your dreams into reality. I mean, what would it mean to actually face the inner desires that you have? And this is a tough question to answer, but I have found that a lot of times as leaders, executives, entrepreneurs, sometimes we struggle with our goals because we might feel like we are alone dealing with imposter or thinking about how can my goals actually happen. And we may actually feel that nobody understands the hole in our heart that we may feel at times from different things we've had to endure. But I want you to know that one of the number one things you're going to have to change is your perspective. And part of that perspective is realizing that you can leave imposter by simply stepping over your fear of transition. So fear is real. Thousands of individuals experience fear of going outside, speaking in a group, speaking in public, standing out and being in the spotlight. And honestly, the unknown can wreak havoc on a person's mind. The problem is even more pronounced if someone has experienced major losses. So you may have been an educator, someone who worked in the field. You may have lost your job, or you may have started a business and it didn't work out. And here you are again at ground zero. But I want you to know that the best way to overcome fear is to face it one step at a time. So let me ask you this question. What do you fear? When did you first think of that fear? Did the fear start with you having a bad experience in the past? I remember a middle-aged woman who came to one of my women's meetings, and she seemed fully engaged. So I was surprised to find that this was the first time she had been out of her house in 6 months. This woman had been through a number of personal challenges, so she just decided she would stay home. And when she saw this workshop that I was leading about upgrading their lives, she decided to come. And you decided to tune into this webinar, and I want to say thank you. I mean, it takes a lot to actually show up. But I'm with you, and I want you to pretend that I'm staring right at you no matter where you are sitting. You have to know that you're not the only one experiencing fear, and there are many fears. Sometimes people have a fear of failure, but sometimes others have a fear of success. There are so many leaders and entrepreneurs that I know who say, oh, you know what, I've been in the background, but really there's something more that I would like to do. Thinking over these days and thinking about 2024, what fears do you think you're going to have to overcome? Is it a fear of actually outperforming in a way that you never imagined? I want you to know that sometimes the fear of success can mean that you just feel uneasy with all that attention. But if you take off the mindset of just people staring at you and you put in front of you the purpose of why you're there, why you want to serve, it takes away and dissipates all of your other concerns. I found that when I finally just got over my imposter, that by keeping in mind who I wanted to help, why I wanted to help, it allowed me to step over the hurdles of my fears. Look, none of us are perfect. And sometimes we also think, oh my gosh, I cannot begin until everything is together. We can have paralysis analysis, which allows us to do, take a lot of time where we slow down when we could have actually had more anticipated results. So I want to remind you to know that if you ever felt afraid, that's absolutely normal. Afraid to speak, afraid to share your offer or your service, afraid to let others know that you're launching out, doing something you've never done before. I mean, how do you expect 2024 to be different? So I want you to know that you are not by yourself, but there are some other reasons why we may not persist. Now, I spent 5 years studying persistence. What makes people keep going when they have an anticipated goal, and what makes them completely turn around or pause? It's not always that the person doesn't have motivation. I mean, we love motivating words. We love when people encourage us. We love to sign up to things. But the question is, where will we be at the midpoint, right? Where will we be 6 months from now? Where will we be 10 months from now? A big answer to that question will also rely upon these other questions, like who is supporting you towards the goal that you have? Like, what steps do you have in place to help you circumnavigate around your weaknesses? Because look, if you've been a procrastinator for the last 15 years, Just saying you won't procrastinate is not enough for you to break that habit. You're actually going to need a system and a plan to overcome your weaknesses. Just saying you want to earn more income or leverage your economy is not enough. You actually are going to need a strategy. And I always say this, one person's plan may not duplicate as a good plan for you. So I always try to tell my tribe and community, whenever you start to launch out, make sure you incubate and ask yourself, what kind of individual am I? Am I an extrovert? Am I an introvert? If you're an extrovert, you're going to not have a problem going live on video and speaking to people because that's something that drives you. But if you're more of an introvert, yes, it might be unnerving for you to think, oh my gosh, I have to go live on video. I have to talk to this many people. I have to post this much time of day. Look, I really want you to take a moment. I want you to draw 4 quadrants, and I want you to put SWOT for strengths, weaknesses, opportunities, and threats. And I really want you to think, what are 3 things I do really, really well? What are 3 things I'm weak at? What are some opportunities I have based upon my strengths? And based upon my weaknesses, what are 3 threats that can happen as a result of me not enhancing or developing those weaknesses? Many people do SWOTs of industry when they're thinking about launching a new business, but I also like to encourage that you do a SWOT of self, because if you want 2024 to be different, you really are going to have to know where you need to spend your time and your energy. This is going beyond a vision board. This is really looking at who you are and customizing a plan around how you're going to circumnavigate against your weaknesses. Now, I know when I started out as a business owner, my number one weakness was paralysis of analysis. I just thought everything had to be perfect. So I waited for 15 years. And I want to encourage you to do what I did. Just make a decision today that you are going to upgrade one area in your life, and you're going to do it this year. Maybe there are some passion projects you've had for all this time and you just never launched out. Maybe there is a book that you want to write, and today is the day you write the first chapter of your new book. Or maybe you've always wanted to feel more confident as a speaker, and today you record yourself on video saying an introduction, introducing yourself. See, sometimes one of the immediate things we can do to shake up our habits is to jump into what I call radical action. Just making a decision, a quick decision that in the moment you're going to make one small step towards your goal. And when you do it, you simply will surprise yourself. So persistence relates to the level of commitment that you have to reach your anticipated goal. Unfortunately, many goals are not realized due to the contributing values that I mentioned before. When you think about your goals, remember that the following themes may represent the pros and cons to your goal attainment, right? So some of the things that may happen, you may not have enough support. You may have self-sabotaging behaviors because you don't believe you're worthy of the upgrade. Sometimes when you get really close to a goal, you just kind of pause and freeze up on everything because it's just overwhelming to think that you can actually accomplish your goal. I know it's like, why would someone have self-sabotage? But that is a big challenge to persistence. Also, too, you could be in an environment where everybody's so used to you being who you are right now that there's no space for you to try to become a newer, stronger version of you. So every year, what I like to do is to do an analysis of all of my associations and projects that I'm a part of. And I really get to think about the things I want to stop doing, the things I want to continue doing, the things I want to expand on doing. And I like to rate it from 1 to 10. So I'm going to ask you on your notepad to think about the areas that you want to enhance. And think about all of the activities you've been a part of over the last year. And I want you to jot down every activity and every engagement you've had of significance. Obviously, not every engagement, but every engagement that you've had, maybe through a training or maybe a relationship, and just rate it from 1 to 10. 1 meaning, I really didn't get that much out of this relationship. 10 meaning, oh my gosh, this experience was amazing. This conference, this relationship, these moments, these really brought me to another level. And then once you're able to look at least 10 of those associations, I want you to decide to make some adjustments. Like the places where you notice, oh my gosh, you have 10s, that's probably where you want to spend more time this year. The places where you have more 1s, that's probably where you want to limit some of that time, right? Or things in the middle, because indifference also isn't necessarily helping you towards your goals either. So you have a decision to make about how you want to engage with your time. And then, for example, I want you to think about things like, I choose to be in relationships with these individuals because fill in the blank. So if Sally has been supporting you and encouraging you, then you can say, I choose to be in a relationship with Sally because she allows me to feel amazing. She helps me to realize that my goals are possible, etc. Or I take breaks from relationships that drain me. And that is why I won't be spending as much time speaking with Debbie or Sue Ann or whoever the person is. And this is just for you. This is you having you time, a journal moment for you to really discover what you're feeling about what you're experiencing in the season. And I know sometimes when I give this presentation, a lot of times people say, well, how do I know where to put the numbers with these relationships? What if I started with someone being a 10 and now they're a 1? That's okay. That's okay. We're thinking about every single tool that it will take for you to get from the worst experiences to the best experiences. And the more positive experiences you can have, the more positive environments you can put yourself in, the better it will be for you attaining a new level. Again, this handout that I'll pass out after this webinar says things like, my friends allow me to stretch into new places of confidence. Your friendships should allow you to feel warm, validated with what you're doing. They should, if they understand who you are as a person and they understand some of the goals you have, it should feel so warm and inviting to be in their presence. I'm fully present when I'm in communication with this person. So obviously, if you feel like you have to hold back, you feel like you have to shrink yourself, then that is a problem. So in this incubation time, I know it might be difficult, but as you write down in your journal those pros and cons, don't be afraid to look back at what you've written and make some adjustments as you move forward this year. So when we think about things, I want you to realize that everybody has different values and goals, and you may have specific goals. And I want you to think about these. Some of us have self-awareness goals, like we want to work on self-acceptance, our emotional well-being, having enlightenment, focusing on self-discovery and self-confidence. And other people have entrepreneurial goals, the goals of writing a book, the goals to expand a business, goals to generate more revenue, goals to expand their business. Some people have spiritual goals, goals to serve the community, goals to serve in their religious environment. So whatever it might be, get clear about the area that you want to focus on. Once you get clear about what you want to focus on, you realize that you're starting to build the blueprint of what I call great transformation. Transformation is a result of small changes an individual makes to alter his or her character. The small decisions occur on a day-to-day basis. The choice to reach a new goal has to be intentional. I also know that personal and professional responsibilities can be overwhelming and make us doubt that we can stick to a plan. But truly, transformation is a series of small steps that you can take. So don't you feel good to know that transformation for you is possible? Why don't you say it to yourself? Transformation for me is possible. Now, I know that it might feel difficult to really envision that, because sometimes if you've been living in a certain experience or more than 5, 10, 15 years, it's hard to think that things can truly transform, but truly they can. That's exactly what happened to me the day I decided, that's it. I'm tired of having these 15 years go by and I'm not seeing myself as a speaker and leader and writer that I always wanted to be. And then I said, that's it. I'm getting a journal. I'm going to Starbucks and I'm going to write the first chapter of my first book. And that book became one of my favorites, Tomorrow Can't Wait. And the Tomorrow Can't Wait book was a reminder to me not to procrastinate. It allowed me to look at my own experiences and say, what did I learn from these experiences and how can I help others? That's essentially what you are trying to do as experts, as leaders, as gurus, as health agents. You're trying to make an impact. But you know what I also realized? If you don't feel 5-star, you can't offer 5-star service because you may not have the energy to give to those that you would like, especially if you're a service-oriented business. So I want you to know that this incubation is a really important time for you to have. Do you know that our thoughts are possible? Our thoughts provide our possibilities. Our thoughts allow us to really envision what we can see for ourselves. What are the possibilities? If you wake up and say, I can become a stronger entrepreneur, I can do something different in 2024, I won't do the same things I've done in 2023, you're more likely to really see the benefits of these affirmations. So I want you to know that your transformation is possible. And one of the best things you can do today is decide to take an action. I was never the type of individual who could listen to a counselor, mentor, and advisor without finding a way to take actual practical steps. Now, I know a lot of times people beat up the self-help industry because they're like, oh, it's just a lot of woo-woo. But truly what I have found after the therapist, after you go to your spiritual locations, you have to contend with yourself. You have to find ways to go to bed at night. And so one of the ways to find true peace is to think, what would I like to see myself doing in 2024? And how can I get there? So I always love to remind my clients that they have a lot more control than they think. Now, there's a lot of things we can't control, but when we decide to own our choices, a lot can change. Like when I decided the reason why I wasn't happy after a 15-year procrastination period was because I was making the decision not to speak, not to write, and not to do the things that would lead me there. I realized I had to take some ownership. Yes, feel sad about it, but not turn that into deep inward depression, but then take ownership and say, wait a minute, what part of this goal activation that I have do I need to own? And so we do have the power to change our thinking so that it helps us to move in a positive direction. Many people desire change, but the challenges of life can make us feel like just giving up. Even more, when someone has failed a number of times, they may internalize the message that all is lost and no effort is needed to try again. But let me tell you, sometimes just getting yourself together to start can be one of the biggest hurdles you overcome. So I want you to wipe the slate clean in our time together. Tell yourself, yes, maybe I failed in 2023 or years before. Maybe it did not work. However, I still have hope and I still have the desire to do something different. We all have 24 hours in a day and the choice of how we use them. How many of us have attended events, receptions, meetups, and more to only feel like we need another vacation from all of that information coming our way? And you can really have information overload. So I want to encourage you. Pick one goal that you want to change. Ask yourself, what is the one thing that I can change in my life today to reach my overarching goal? For example, you might say you have a goal to make more money as a business owner. That's very broad. So you might say, well, I own this t-shirt business and every month it will be my goal to at least sell or share 10 t-shirts with 10 individuals every month. You want to make a goal that you can keep. The other thing I would ask you to do once you see this workbook is to forgive yourself for things that you feel like you should have done or things that you thought should have already happened. And just think, what are the areas you would like to focus on personally and professionally? So if I were to ask you this question, how would you fill in the blank? This time next year, I would like to fill in the blank. In order to really reach these goals, I need to spend more time on fill in the blank. In order to grow, I need to be around more individuals who are fill in the blank. I am fearful of fill in the blank. In the next 12 months, I need to spend more time fill in the blank. So when you think about this, I really want you to realize that transformation is at your fingertips. One of the things that you want to do with this workbook that I'm giving you is to fill out the action, intention, and outcomes. The action statements say each month select one goal that you have and create concrete actions that specify that goal. Highlight the intention you will create as you jot this down. Highlight the result of this action. You are not bound by the date and time, but must make room to create the result in your calendar. This sheet can be duplicated for both personal and professional growth. So what you're going to want to do is you're going to want to take time to ask yourself, what are the actions that you can take that can lead you to the overall goal? And I want you to pay attention to the sample AIO goals that I have listed on the Incubation Accelerator worksheet. So I want to ask you this question. If you only had 120 days, what would you regret not doing? If you could do life all over again, but you only have these 4 months left, what would you do differently? Well, a lot of times people comment that if they could do it all over again, they would watch less TV to do some of the things that they love to do. If your value is more to spend time with more relationships, then maybe it's spending more time with people who really make you feel wonderful. Yes, of course, they're not always going to agree with everything you do, but when you're in their presence, you just feel like you can be yourself. One of the fastest ways I know I need to make an adjustment is when I feel like I have to hold a lot of who I am within. You don't want to shrink who you are in 2024. You want to expand. Does a bird ever just fly at a low level? No, it always will go to the highest altitude that its wings will allow it to go. And that's how I want you to soar in 2024. I want you to have what I've been calling an unrecognizable year. When you've gone to the mall or you see someone you haven't seen in a long time and you go, is that you? I mean, you were so unrecognizable. I didn't even realize it was you. Because maybe they did something different. Maybe they were eating more salads. Maybe they just seemed more confident. Well, I want you to have an unrecognizable year. So what would that look like? What would having an unrecognizable year look like for you? Again, I want to backtrack. We talked about the importance of having incubation and how Albert Einstein loved to ponder. Take a moment and really journal about what it will feel like if you were truly able to reach some of these new goals you jotted down in your notes. What would it feel like to stand with full confidence and finally say, yes, this is who I am? What would it feel like to be able to lead your team with a lot more confidence and with stronger communication skills? What would it feel like to feel like you're not burnt out, but you're doing your entrepreneurship tasks with vigor and joy because you truly have purpose and you feel vibrant about it? When I think about incubation, it's such a needed time. And one of the things I would like to invite you to is something that we have called the IWBCC Upgrade Summit. And what that is a live event that you get to come to where you get to connect with yours truly in a live room virtually. You get to see our Spark collaborators. You get to hear their stories. But more importantly, you're not just there to listen. You also get called on. You actually will see me asking you questions and wanting to hear about your journey and your story. Because I believe when we really are in a room where we not only are learning, but we're really highly activated, that wonderful things can happen. I can recall there was a woman that came to our training and she did not turn her video on for the full 10 months that she was with us. But finally, when she saw how authentic everyone was and she saw how much people really cared and all the other experts and leaders and eagles in the room, she decided, oh my goodness, what am I hiding from? I want to turn my video on. So she turned her video on and everybody was just so happy to meet her. That's exactly what you might need. Trying to build your business alone can be very, very lonesome and it can feel very overwhelming. Sometimes, too, you may also be such a perfectionist that you just need to be in a place where you get activated. And I would love to be your activator. For more than 27 years, I've been supporting graduate learners, executives, and leaders with making sure that not only they dream and envision new goals, but that they can actually activate and implement those goals. It's not always easy. You don't always feel like stepping into your goals every single day. Sometimes you have hurdles, but I love supporting high achievers. Those of you who say, oh no, I'm ready to play full out. I don't need you to push me up the mountain, but I would love for you to stand by my side and show me how to activate in a vigorous way. So I want to thank you for tuning in to this Incubation Accelerator workshop and webinar. I want to invite you to make sure you complete a Spark assessment so we can officially have you join our Spark community. I also want to invite you to join our IWBCC page on Facebook and let us know how you enjoyed this training. Again, I can't wait to see you soon. Make sure you click on toldyouspark.com/events to learn about our upcoming events, and we would love to virtually connect. Take care and remember, you're beautiful, you're valuable, and nothing about you is a mistake. I'll see you in a training soon. Bye-bye. For listening to the Incubation Accelerator Masterclass, there are some next steps that you will want to take. Number 1, go ahead and click on the Spark assessment below. Number 2, make sure to go ahead and join our private group on Facebook, #IWBCC. And lastly, make sure you never miss a newsletter or podcast by subscribing to toldyouspark.com. We'll see you soon virtually. Take care. Bye-bye.